Photographer of the Year. Let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast, where today I am joined by one of the coolest guys in the league, a new friend of mine, Jonah Jamroz. We just talked about this, of Infamous, and also a senior videographer of Phorm. Like, you want to talk about a crazy resume? Like, you are literally living the dream of what a lot of us have. You know, getting to be a content creator for your full-time job and playing professional paintball. That's crazy.
Super sweet. Hey, man, thank you for having me on. Incredible honor, and excited to chop it up with you today.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of things we're going to dive into. We've got a lot of questions for off the field. We're going to learn about you, get into your mind a little bit, and then we're going to jump on the field. But before we do that, I have two absolutely huge shout outs to give. I've got two show sponsors that have been with me since literally day one. First and foremost, BFP Gear. Speaking of Infamous and your team, they are now selling the new bag that the Pro DNA just dropped, like that new backpack.
Yeah,
it's so sick. I'm dying to get my hands on it.
I know, me too. I mean, like, I have the Gen 1 of the bag, and it's super sick, like complete waterproof. I love the pockets. I actually use it for like my daily work right now. But when I saw when Trav showed us the bags at Cup last year, I was like, dude, I need like this tan green one. Like, it looks so sick. Yeah.
That's like the cool part of what I love about what like Pro DNA and Infamous is doing. That whole collaboration is they're not building products just for the field. They're building things that you actually want to use off the field too. And that's such a sweet spot that I think has been missing from paintball for so long. So that's so cool to see. And that new bag that we were talking about is now available on bfpgear.com. So head over there and snag that. And then my second sponsor, Hormesis. Alex and the team, like, no one is doing it better than what they're doing. They're building lifestyle. They're building on the field. Their booth at NXL events are just absolutely crazy, no matter how big or small they are. So it's been an honor to be partnered up with them throughout this whole entire podcast journey. But man, all right, so let's jump into being a content creator. I really want to start off there. And for anyone who is a content creator, you're going to know exactly what Jonah and I are about to talk about, the struggles of being a creator. Like, you open up Instagram, you open up TikTok, you open up YouTube, you see like the final version, like the epic cut, the thing that, you know, has been hours of being chopped up. But what you don't see is sometimes the gear fails, the audio fails. And Jonah and I spent probably 10 or 15 minutes before this thing working on our audio, because both of our audio sources were not working.
I mean, the whole thing, like, whether it's paintball or life or even being like a content creator, it's just being able to adapt to anything that is thrown at you. That's why, you know, when you're building your kit, you know, to go out on a shoot, or, you know, like, you're going to the paintball field, for example, it's just good to, like, and my dad does a really good job of this. Partially why I'm so lucky to have him, you know, come to the field for practices and events, is like, I can't think of a more prepared person than him. But, you know, you look at like your gear bag and your camera kit, you know, it's super important to have like the things that you don't think you're going to need, like an extra battery, an extra XLR cord, or, you know, just things like that. It's just important to have to like think about like what you need, and then think about like what could go wrong, and have like extra things that you could use to solve any problem that's like thrown your way.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful analogy. And I think I've heard a lot of people say, you know, paintball teaches you so much about life, and then life teaches you so much about paintball, right? Like, that's why they're so intertwined. But like, specifically being a content creator, like, they go hand in hand, because you've got to prepare for stepping on the field, right? Like, you have to have all of your gear in your paintball bag the night before. You've got to have a checklist of it. And then when you're on the field, if anything breaks or goes down, you've got to know, how do I flip and switch that? Same thing for being a creator. Like, you just said it, you've got to build out your kit the night before. And if you show up to your shoot or your location and something goes wrong, like, you got to have a plan to roll with it, because sometimes you're not going back to that place.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Let's back up a little bit, and because we got excited, we were talking about the content creation piece, which we always do when we are talking about our craft. Tell me specifically what your role is and what you do for the company Phorm, because I think that's anyone that is in the sport and anything fitness, you have seen Phorm like everywhere. Like you guys are killing it in the media scene.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, so we've kind of like really started to grow over these last couple of years. I joined the company back in 2021. So about 4.5 years ago, and it's been really cool to see like the company grow and scale over time and start to get more, influence in paintball, like not necessarily saying like we sponsor anything, but we sponsor like a couple of teams that are out there right now, send product to different people just to kind of get, their thoughts on the supplements and how it could improve their overall being as athletes and whatnot. But, and we'll really start to see Phorm become more of a name as the brand scales over the next couple of quarters, especially in this next quarter. So if people, not many people might probably know what Phorm is. It's a fitness nutrition company based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We just partnered with Anheuser-Busch.
Wow.
So they're so with that happened within the first quarter of this year. We partnered with Anheuser-Busch and Dana White. For people that don't know Anheuser-Busch, like they own like Budweiser, Bud Light, those kind of drinks. And prior to us, they had a Ghost energy drink. That was kind of like their energy drink.
Like a gaming drink, right?
Yeah. And so they dropped Ghost. They picked us up. It was just a good fit. And so now we're going from 2,000 retail locations to 200,000. So you'll start to see like our logo kind of like all over the place, whether it's our energy drinks or our better for you products, like, level 1 protein bars or like the meat sticks. You've probably seen some people having like the level 1 bars, food. Yeah. Dude, they are so good. Like, dude, the PB&J bar and the chocolate PB bars are so good, dude. I mean, I just like, when people have like the stigma for like, protein and protein bars, like they just taste like clay or they're like chewy and disgusting. And dude, not all protein bars are like that. Right. We do a good job of like making bars that actually taste good. And it's like it tastes like a snack that you can actually enjoy.
Yeah. That's thanks for bringing that up. Because when I was so I've been doing this thing for 3 years now, going to like all the NXL events, and this because you are on a media team and you used to be in paintball media, which we'll talk about. But like they're long days, and like if you're not feeling your body, like you're just gonna have a miserable time that whole entire weekend. And I actually brought some of these to the event with me, the PB&J ones, and then also the Phorm electrolytes. And I've been taking electrolytes for the past 3 years from different companies. This was probably the first weekend at Atlantic City that like I actually felt solid the whole entire day and the whole entire weekend. Like I didn't feel sluggish. I wasn't tired. I didn't feel like clammy because like I was just like the electrolytes were fueling me. And so I can't speak highly enough about your company and like what you guys are doing. I believe in the products. And the crazy thing is you said like they're getting bigger. When I first started to get into like the supplement and fitness scene, like Phorm is all I saw. And then I started to see all these other companies. So it's crazy. I think that like you're saying it's not even at the peak yet. It's just getting started.
Mm-hmm. And that's so interesting to hear too, because like, me working for the company, obviously I'm surrounded by it. So I don't necessarily see like, different people that come into, like their fitness or weight loss journey, when they type in, supplement or like, even weight loss or anything like that. I don't get to see like what other results kind of like pop up before ours or kind of like anything like that. So it's really cool to hear that we already have a big kind of presence, growing at that.
For sure. And I've even seen it, on the pro scene, because I think like, Harrison Fry, I think is always talking about Phorm. I think Tom Cole's partner, Kara, is always like, she's a huge fan of Phorm and totally believes in it. And so there's a bunch of people in the sport and the league that swear by it. But I want to make sure we circle back and talk about what's your specific role within the company, because that's the part that's just like cool.
Yeah, 100%. So I started 4.5 years ago as a videographer. I'm still a videographer right now, but that role has kind of like morphed and changed, and has become more fluid as time goes on. So I still like just do anything like video related, but when I say that though, like, project wise, one day I could be working on a Facebook ad that's targeted towards a specific demographic, or, the next day, I'm helping to plan out projects for TikTok because, I really started to work on that over when I first started, and I've been able to kind of grow that into a little bit more than what it is, when I first started. So now we have another guy that's making TikToks, and he's crushing it. He's doing very well at that. But so like I'll be doing TikToks, YouTube, Facebook ad, or like an Instagram reel. Like it's just the scale of the projects have varied quite a bit over the years that I've been working for the company, and it's really cool to see the variety that we get to work on, as well as the people we get to work on, or people that we get to work with. Very lucky to be able to work on a variety of the projects, and I think that's something that keeps what I do interesting, because I get to work on so many different projects with so many different people.
Yeah, I think what you're describing, I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's listening to this and it's like, man, like he is living my dream. Like I would love to work for a large company that is creating Facebook ads or putting out these cool, reels and all the video pieces that you're doing. But I think without saying it, you kind of touched on something there. It sounds like when you're talking about it, I can hear the passion coming through of what you're doing as a videographer, but then also you're passionate about what the product is. And I think when you marry those two things, like it just makes for the work, you'll see it in the work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Totally agree. And I mean, like video and content creation has kind of like been something that, I didn't necessarily always want to do. Cause when I was kind of in high school, like, I know it sounds goofy, but I wanted to get into like computer software engineering. That's kind of like where I wanted to go. Yeah. And then, like that was kind of where I wanted to go. And so I went to school, or I went to high school, started to tour some colleges, went to UW Milwaukee. And when I started to, tour that college and get to learn a little bit more about the courses and, kind of like what was required for that kind of degree, I was like, I just don't know if I could do this. Like Calc 2, 3, I was just like, I don't know if I can do that, But then like we took a side tour of their film program, because before that in high school, I'd taken like a couple of, I enjoyed taking like photos here and there. My mom had a camera or like a T5i that I would use. And I was playing a little bit of paintball at the time, like competitive D4, like D4, D5, 3-man, 5-man. So nothing crazy, but me and my friend would be taking photos and stuff of like each other, playing practices, tournaments, kind of locally. And, there's something I enjoyed. I like the process of like capturing a moment and then being able to like color it, export it, send it out to the person. Even if they didn't post it or anything like that, it was just fun to like go through the act of taking the photo and editing the photo and sending it. I just really enjoyed doing that. And so that was kind of at the back of my mind as I was like kind of going, through these, this tour of UW Milwaukee. And, we started looking at the film program, and it was like one of the best in the country. It was like in the top 20, at least, of like film programs. And so I was like, this seems kind of interesting, like maybe I'll go that route. Like maybe I'll try that out. So during my undergrad, I started taking some more film courses, as I'm going through like my general courses, and I'm enjoying it. I get like a Sony A7 III. I start using that. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I start working for the athletics program. And that's kind of like a big parallel between like what I do now. But I shout out to my roommate for, getting me into the athletics program. Frank Kugel helped get me into the athletics program. And I think that's really kind of like what's completely changed like my trajectory. But, working with the athletic department, turning around content really fast for Instagram at the time, I found a love for, working with athletics and athletes, because, in high school I played soccer, and that was like what I enjoyed doing. But then, it was probably the first semester of my junior year of college that, I sat down, because everything's starting to feel real. Like, I have 2 more years left, like, and then I'm into the real world. Like, what am I going to do? Like, and I'm pursuing like a bachelor in fine arts. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to really do with that? So I'm thinking, I spent like legitimately spent like a couple like long nights just literally laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, looking at it, thinking to myself like, damn, I'm getting a degree in film, video, and new genres. Like, what the hell am I going to do with this? And I just kind of like, I sat there thinking about it. I'm like, this is something that I like really enjoy doing, and I'm going to go all in on this, and I'm going to make it work regardless of whatever comes my way. Like, I'm going to make this is what I'm going to do. And so that summer, I started working. I did the most Wisconsin thing I could have did, which is like working in a cheese packaging plant.
I knew cheese was going to come up somewhere in there.
It's going to come up. It's going to come up. So like, I was working in this factory with a bunch of dads, is really a good way to put it. And, a lot of long days, like 12-hour days. And like they incentivize, like I'm not doing anything during the summer. I just wanted to work and make money. That's what I wanted to do. And so like they had opportunities to work more overtime. So like you'd work the traditional like 40 hours a week, and then like anything over that overtime is like, I think it's time and a half or something like that. Wow. And then Sundays were double time. I would try and sign up for literally as much as I could, because I wanted to make as much money as I could.
Yeah.
And that summer, like I was able to save up a pretty good chunk of money. And I was like kind of like looking at different cameras and stuff like that. And I just never found myself like in a position to purchase like a high-end like cinema camera. Yeah. And I'd saved up the money, did a lot of research in terms of like the specs that I needed, that I would like, the things that I would like out of a camera, and like how to use a high-end cinema camera. And I finally found a red package that was like exactly kind of what I was looking for. It was like $12,000, and I was like, I mean, this is the first big purchase that I've ever made. Saved all that money, bought that camera, and then just kind of went all in on it. And I still use that camera today. And that was probably like, it's got to be like 8 years, maybe six, 7 years ago that I made that purchase. But I still use that camera. It's still like great specs. Now, obviously, you can't like, you gotta find the best camera for the scenario or the project. Like you can't use red for everything, but like it works for some. Like works really well for some things. Yeah.
Wow. What a beautiful story. Like I think there's a few pieces I want to pull out there. Mm-hmm. The first one, you said you thought your pivotal moment was when your roommate got you into the athletics department. It actually sounds like the pivotal moment was deciding to go on that college tour and then saying yes to go off that side tour and like check out that media part of it.
Yeah, true.
Because it seemed like that kind of like spiked your interest right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, like as we got to like kind of walk around like because like they have the Peck School of the Arts, kind of like its own building.
Yeah.
So like when you got to walk through there, like being like a senior in high school, seeing like all these upperclassmen, they've got they had the whole like gear room, which was super sick, like enticing to me. I was like, oh, this seems really cool. And then just like. It showed me that there was opportunity, and I think that was probably something that was really beneficial to me.
Yeah. Wow. And so that summer when you purchased that red camera, was that instantly did you jump right into paintball content? Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like you actually have and still have a paintball media page where you were doing that. Like you were posting pictures and content all the time. So did you start there, or what was that journey into paintball media?
So like, I'm trying to think of when I actually started doing some paintball media. Cause like I would do it here and there. I did, shout out to Matt Engels. Matt Engels has been like a huge advocate for me. Has opened the doors for me on like so many different, gigs and opportunities that I can't think of enough. He was one of the guys that got me like the media pass to be able to go out and like just shoot on the sidelines and do stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of when I first started shooting like at the NXL, because there were some events that I did, some events that I didn't, and it started out kind of here and there, like if I got knocked out, or if my team got knocked out and didn't make it to Sunday, then I would like pick up the camera and start shooting around.
Yeah.
So I was able to do that at some events. And then there was probably the coolest thing I've done in paintball, like from a media perspective, was getting to travel overseas to the NXL Europe Prague event.
Wow.
So Matt needed another cam op for the broadcast that was going on.
Yeah.
And, I was working in that factory at that time. And this was during the summer. And I was like, shoot, like me getting to leave the country, like who's not going to take that,
Yeah.
And I get paid for that too. Like, so that's like another thing about like content creation is like where you can go with it, the opportunities that you have. It's super, super freaking cool.
And get paid to go see those like foreign places too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something I can touch on with like First Phorm too, because we do a lot of that. But like I went over to Prague, got to broadcast, and it got to stay like a day before, day after, and I think there might have been a little bit more like buffer as well. So we actually got to like check out the city a little bit and see some of the sights, and it's just a huge culture shock being able to go to like another country and see their way of life, or like how peer-to-peer relationship is, and like their just personal demeanor, like talking to an individual. Like it's just, I think it's a little different like here in the US versus like European countries. And
Sure.
It's really cool to see like how friendly those cultures are and like welcoming they are.
Yeah, I mean, we like, for people that haven't traveled abroad, like you see it just if you travel inside of the country that you're in, like you'll see it in different pockets of like the cities and states that you're in. But when you're going to a whole different country, like that's just it's a whole different ballgame there.
Mm-hmm.
What was some of the if we jump back to First Phorm and your creation there, like I can imagine if you're shooting video for them, they're probably going to different locations. Like what have been some of the coolest moments that you've captured at so far? Like if you can talk about those.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple. I think, so this is both one of the coolest trips that I've been on, but also one of probably the most stressful project that I've been on as well. So it's kind of like best of both worlds, if that makes sense. We had an apparel shoot where we wanted to showcase the apparel in the Antelope Slot Canyons in Arizona.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so naturally, we were concepting what the mood board was going to look like for the I think it was summer apparel. I don't think it was spring, but for the summer apparel collection, we started thinking about where we wanted to showcase it. We were like, it would be so cool, like if we could do it in the Antelope Canyons or something like that. And so initially, like, I started taking, and this is kind of where the content creator like role starts to expand a little bit, because now I find myself doing things that a producer would do, or even a director. And so naturally, like Shelby's my girlfriend. She's the head photographer at First Phorm.
Cool.
So we get to work on a lot of projects together, which is really cool. Wow. So we do apparel together quite a bit, and so we're both kind of going back and forth on like, okay, so now we got to start reaching out to these places to figure out where we can shoot. Is this even a possibility? Like what does this even look like? So we started doing some preliminary research on the land, and the Navajo own the land. And so we had to start looking at, okay, well, if we want to do this the right way, we got to get permits. We've got to like, reach out and start to do this correctly. Because if we just show up with a camera and models and, like it could there could be some problems. Yeah. And we did not want to do that. So we started doing some research, started calling around, and like started realizing that the National Park Service is a little bit disorganized up front. Like it's very tough to find like who to actually contact about like media. And so like I would call the Park Service for like Arizona or something like that, like the because the Antelope Canyons are like around Page, Arizona, which is kind of a little bit more rural than like Phoenix or Sedona or anything like that. We started calling like some of the numbers that were listed on the website, and it would direct me to like Oregon or something way off. And I'm like, this doesn't help me. And they didn't even know like how to redirect me. So, but we were able to like find the right contact for the Navajo tribe, because the Navajo actually own that land. I think the government gave them land, and so it's theirs to kind of take care of.
Sure.
And so we got the correct contact, was able to pay for the permits, get it all locked down, and we were like, okay, sick. We've got it locked down. After a couple of weeks, no problem. We should have everything. We got everything printed out, put it in a folder, like we're ready to go. So then we go to Arizona, and it's like a week-long shoot. So we have to get and so for like anything apparel related or like product related, you have to get studio web imaging. Think of that as the back end kind of things, like stuff you use for marketing, like website, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, banners and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. So you have like that side of stuff, of content creation, which is a little bit more boring, but like utilitarian, like you have to do it. Yeah. So you have that, a little bit more time consuming. And then you have like the cool stuff on location, that where you're like physically out and about on location shooting like different stylized images of like the apparel pieces. So we budgeted the first part of the week to do the studio related content. We reach out to the Pure Space location. We're like, hey, do you have strobes like this, and this, so that we can like pack lighter? And they're like, yep, just this will be an additional like add-on cost or whatever. We're like, okay, sweet. So we feel like we have the studio like locked down. We're going to spend a day, drive out to Page, which is 3 or 4 hours away from like where we are in Phoenix.
Sure.
So it would be like a 3-4 hour drive there to location scout for a couple hours and then drive back. So we get to Arizona, and then I think we went out to like location scout first. So Shelby and I get in a car, we drive 4 hours, get to Page. And what's really funny is like we're in Phoenix first, super, super hot, like 70, 80 degrees. We start driving probably 2 hours in. It's like snowing, and like we go through a blizzard. And I'm like, we're in Arizona. What the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Crazy. And then we get to Page where it's warm again. And then we get to the location scout or the location site where we were permitted for. We get there. The people on the location have no idea about the permit or anything like that. So we're freaking out. We're like, we shoot here in like 2 days. Like we need to figure this out. Otherwise, like this is not going to be good. And so like immediately we call our representative for the Navajo. And she's like, she didn't realize like there was something wrong about that. And then she does some scrambling, finds another tour service that has access to a slot canyon that is not Antelope Canyons specifically, but it is a slot canyon where it's got like like the sand, the water went through the sand, and it's kind of like, the look.
Picturesque, yeah.
Exactly. And so she finds this tour company that it actually ended up working out really well. Like that location was completely private, not allowed for tours, but we were allowed to shoot there, which was super sick. And the people that were setting up the tour knew what Phorm was, which was completely insane.
Cool. Wow.
And so I think it's Antelope Canyon slot tours or something like that. I'll have to send you the link. I think I have their company information. I'll have to send it to you if you want to include that. For sure. But so we got that taken care of. We drive back to Phoenix, and we're like, okay, sick. We think we have this locked in. And then the next day we go to the studio location to shoot web images. We get to the studio, complete mess. There's like the gear is just thrown into like, these bins, cords everywhere, strobes like here and there, like mix mash brands and parts. And we're like, oh my gosh, because we allocated a little bit of time for setup and then just to shoot everything. Cause we had a lot of apparel pieces to shoot and, like hours worth. And we're like freaking out. We're like, does this piece go to this strobe? And we separate everything, and then we realize that like they still don't have everything that was needed, and so we're like we're freaking out because like our time is like chipping away, and we only have it for a specific amount of time, and then it like starts to cost more because like you're overbooking the space. So we find a rental house close to us that's probably 30, 40 minutes away. We quick, so we send somebody to just drive there, and then we call them, and then they have exactly what, like, they have a couple of strobes, thank God. And they get the strobes, come back. Somehow Shelby's able to just knock all the pieces out. So we knock them out the first day, we knock out the rest the second day. And then everybody comes up then we all make the drive to Page, Arizona, which is 3-4 hours. Yeah. Get all the way up there. And then, everything seems to work out, get to the rental house or get to the Airbnb. Everything's good there. And then we wake up in the morning because we want to do like an early morning shoot. And then we wake up and it's like hailing, like in the middle of Arizona. I'm like, come on, like, please just cut us and give us a break.
Yeah, anything.
You know what I mean? So we delay the shoot, push it back a little bit, and then we're able to get it. It's overcast, which wasn't exactly with what we were looking for, but we ended up making it work. And then just throughout the rest of the shoot, we just kind of had like weird little like things go wrong, but then we pivoted and adapted. And if anything, like, it was just super fun to like, looking back, it's really fun to be able to like look back and be like, oh, we were able to adapt, overcome, have fun in the meantime. And, kind of like cherish the struggle and the process of it. Yeah. But going through it, man, it was like, your heart rate's racing. You're like, oh my gosh, like if we don't get this, like we don't get this. And it's just like stress at an all-time max. Cortisol levels have never been higher. Just living off of adrenaline.
Yeah, for sure. And like, thanks for explaining and going through all the detail. Cause I think that right there beautifully sums up all the highs and lows of a career, of life, of paintball. Right. And like, if none of that happened and you just went to this, this place to go create the content, and like nothing went wrong, you'd be like, oh yeah, like it was cool. There'd be no story, right? Like you always hear like the story comes from the trials and tribulations, and like people it's the age old analogy of like when you are climbing a mountain, like, yeah, the peak is cool, but like the struggles that you go through to get up that, like that's the story, that's the gold. And to hear how much you had to adapt in this, I'm assuming, few days of a shoot, right?
Yeah, it was like a week.
Yeah, like that probably making those decisions on the fly, like probably teaches you so much about paintball, because when you're on the field, you've got to adapt so quickly, and you've got to keep those cortisol levels in check. You've got to keep that stress in check, keep that anxiety in check. Have you noticed that when you're on the field, like, do you feel calmer, or vice versa? Like if things are now going wrong on a shoot, do you see how both on and off the field helps each other?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm able to like bring my heart rate down a little bit more, and be like calmer. Whereas like when I was first kind of like getting into competitive paintball, like, stuff would still like kind of be moving really fast. And it still does move fast, but like for the most part, I've been able to kind of like, the game is a little bit slower, a little bit calmer, more so than when I first started. Now, like, people always ask if you like still get nerves and stuff, like, or sure, get nervous, coming into a match, tournament, anything like that. Cause I've been playing professionally for the last, I think it's 5 years. I think 5 years now is kind of like how long I've been playing professionally. But, like I still get nerves, like, coming onto the field or before the match, like, like that's why I try to either put like headphones on to kind of like bring me back to center, or to like calm me down or bring the heart rate back down. But typically, like after you get that first point, or that first point's done, like all the nerves go away, and then you're back to like, self-regulating. It's really just kind of getting past that first point, or the anxiety coming up to that first point. Yeah.
Is that something that you've dealt with your whole entire life, is like anxiety going up and down there?
Yeah, I would say, for anything too. I mean, like I have this a lot with like shoots, as well, because like, I always get stressed out about like, being prepared enough for something, like I'll try to overpack, so that I'm like prepared in the scenario. Like, for example, like we have this documentary that's coming up. We shot 2 parts of it already, or 2 training blocks for it. We have 2, like Phorm sponsors 2 ex-Navy SEAL athletes. One is paralyzed, And so both of them are doing a 1,000-mile kayak race in the Yukon River in Alaska. And so one of the shoots took place in San Diego, where they're kind of like, it's the first training block. And I just got back from the second training block in Atlanta, and that was a more stressful shoot because, kind of like leading into it, there's a lot of things that I had to think about, like when it comes to covering this and filming the project. You think about, because like in Alaska, they're going to be so remote that like we can't have a boat like follow them, because then they would get disqualified. Like that's its own thing. Sure. But so preparing for them to be able to film themselves, like I have to make sure like we have multiple angles. So like GoPros on the kayaks, and then people don't think about it, but powering those GoPros for 10 days, like, because they have a 10-day window to complete the race. Now, what does the power supply look like for that GoPro? And then what does the memory supply look like for that GoPro? How often are they going to have to swap batteries? How often are they going to have to swap SD cards? And then you start thinking about like, how do you waterproof this? How do you make sure the GoPro doesn't overheat? And then making sure that they like making it easy for them to be able to film as well. So like having a remote start-stop to be able to start all of them at the same time, as opposed to them having to reach over, press start. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of like little logistical things that I had to like think about for that project. And I, get so much stress and anxiety thinking about like, do I have everything covered? Like, do I have everything ready to go for this scenario? And same goes for paintball, like, do I have, a rain lid for my loader? Do I have my cleats? Do I have my, jersey, pants, all the things that I need? You start to like really overthink overthink things, have stress, anxiety about that stuff. And it happens, and I get it, event to event. It's just kind of like, just do yourself a favor and try to be as prepared as you physically can be, so that you can perform without having any kind of worries or any kind of anxieties when you step on the field.
Yeah. So like, let's go a little deeper there, because you said prepare. And I think, like when you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself going into these events, and, I've got to have different cameras and batteries and think about the elements. And, I've got a note on my phone where like I have a checklist of all of it. But I'll go through all of it, but I'll still lay in bed and be like, shit, do I have that? Like, I know I checked it off, but like, did I actually put it in the bag? Is it still in the charger? Have you done anything to like help that process? Like, have you put any processes in place to help your anxiety before events, besides just like the running through your checklist?
Yeah. So the best way I kind of do it is I think about like, what would I take physically on the field, and I kind of like, okay. I like physically walking on the field, at a bare minimum. If I have everything that I need to at least step onto the field and execute, then I'm good, at least from a square one perspective. So like thinking about that, okay, well, I need socks, shoes, pants, elbow pads, jersey, mask, headband, harness, gun, tank, hopper, and like a barrel sleeve. At a minimum, you need those things. You know what I mean? So if I at a square one, thinking about like, what if I were to step onto that field, what am I physically wearing? And that typically is enough to help me get through at least the minimums that I need. And then from there I can be like, okay, well, I'm going to pack an extra hopper. I'm going to pack, some like an extra gun, like, and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
That's a great tip to actually, just for anything in life, is like, what are the bare essentials that I need? And then if I have that, and I know for sure I have that, everything else is just like putting your mind at ease.
Yes.
That's a great 100%. Tip. Yeah. The other thing that when we were talking about this pre-show, you had mentioned that you've struggled throughout your life a little bit with imposter syndrome. Like you'll see that come up and go away throughout your life. Talk to me about that too, because early on in my episodes, like I went through imposter syndrome like crazy, doing this podcast, doing photos, and it wasn't up until recently where like I started to kind of be okay with like, okay, this is my identity, this is who I am, like my work is good. But it took a lot of work to get to that point. It's like, tell me about your journey with it.
It's really hard. Just putting that out there. It's because like, you know, everybody spends time on, you know, social media, Instagram, wherever, you know, and even like offsite, like you look at other players, you know, that are doing really well, or like, you know, that you practice against, and it's like, you know, like who am I compared to like this player, you know, playing against me that has all these years of experience, you know, gotten all these reps, looks, you know, clean on the field. You know, it's really tough because like, you're like, well, who am I when, you know, these people are already putting in the work, already have the work done, you know, and I'm just stepping out of the field for the first time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, you know, from a content creator's perspective, you look at like all the other successful content creators and you're like, dang, like, you know, cause I follow like a ton of like on my, so I have a paintball page, just Jonah Jamroz Fit. And then I have just Jonah Jamroz as my body of work, per se. And on my body of work, like content creator profile, I follow so many different like DPs, directors, cam ops, and like just influencers. And, you know, I just try to like consume as much content as I can so that I can like get a gauge of like what's on trend, what is good content look like. And I just continue to consume it so that I like at least have a good frame of reference or have inspiration as to like, oh, this guy did this shot, you know, and this seems really cool and unique. You know, I'm going to try and apply that in a different way or use it as inspiration. But like, as you do that, you're like, man, these guys are like light years ahead of like where I'm at, you know? And so like, you just naturally get these thoughts in your mind of like, well, you know, who am I to like make a page? Who am I to start posting when all these other people are like successful at it? But, you know, when I think about that, it's like, you know, and I, after filming like some of these big names, like, you know, I've had the incredible opportunities to be able to film like Michael Chandler or like, you know, some of these big people or UFC fighters, like Mighty Mouse, for example, and like getting to sit down and just talk to them, like they're just real everyday people, you know, they like
all just people. Yeah.
100%. And like, you know, even talking like to professional paintball players, for example, like you sit and talk to like, you know, like a Goldman or like, you know, some of these other dudes, and like, they're all just really like down to earth, everyday people, you know what I mean? And it's just important to remind yourself that these are just everyday people that chose to take action, you know, when most people choose to sit on the sidelines. And it's really important. You know, I noticed this like in our industry, cause I compare and contrast to like, you know, the fitness industry and some other, you know, athletics. And and I see people doing it more. So it's improving. But people taking the time to build their own personal brand, you know, on social media, whether that's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok is really important. Snapchat and some of these other platforms. It's just really important. If our goal is to, first of all, grow paintball, but also the only way one way that you can do that is by building your personal brand. And that's a win-win for you because you can leverage that personal brand into other brand deals with other companies, or like, you know, like let's say you could do a fitness and nutrition company, or if I wanted to do it and pair with like Theragun or like, you know, thing like it is literally so broad that you could brand and collaborate with stuff that you enjoy doing. Like, let's say I really liked Milwaukee tools, you know what I'm saying? A lot of these other companies are really looking for, you know, people that are like building their platform so that they can spread positive word of mouth and expand influence. So like a lot of these companies are really looking for personal brands that they can attach their name to, send product to get their name out, you know? And so like if we can build our personal brand into a place where we have influence and community, and kind of like what you've been able to cultivate a community. It's like, you know, people buy from people they like, you know, and people that they know. Like how often, you know, you'll see a Facebook ad, you know, some people are different. Some people buy off of Facebook ads, but, you know, I'll see a Facebook ad once and I'll be like, oh, that was cool. But then when it's reinforced with somebody else being with one of your friends or one of your close peers, and they're like, you know, hey, I just bought the Brooks Glycerin Max running shoe. You're more likely to buy that shoe because a friend just reinforced your thought about the product that you just saw online. It's just really important to start building your personal brand so that you can do some of these things and help out, the community and grow paintball. I mean, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. In like that consumer you're explaining is me to a T. Like if I see something on Facebook or Instagram, my first thought is like, that's cool. I need justification somewhere else. Like, I don't believe it. Like, I feel like this company could just pay for it and like get it in front of my face. And so like part of doing the whole YouTube, like I've grown a little community. Like we've got a Patreon, we've got a Discord channel, and we actually have like a health channel in there. And I've got some guys in there that are just like on your level. They're working out daily. They put so much time and effort into their body. And one of the guys, Joel, he swears by doing an ice bath. He posts on a story every day. He's doing it. He posts his results and whatnot. They actually reached out to him like, hey, we love your content. Like, we'd love to work with you more. Mm-hmm. And so like, he's now building his personal brand to, his personal paintball brand, but he's also pulling in these extra companies as well. And I did the same thing that, Callie did with Kane's footwear, right? Like Kane's wanted to kind of grow outside that recovery market a little bit. And, so Callie started to work with them. I started to work with them a little bit too. And those small things just help not only the creator, but they help legitimize paintball as well. Because now you're associating these larger companies or brands with paintball. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a full circle. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on there too is, I think a lot of people think of a content creator as like it's this incredible, easy life, but like there's so much that goes into it. Like if you were to tell somebody, hey, I'm a senior videographer for Phorm, the first thought's not going to be you're on the phone with people from like the Navajo tribe trying to like get locations, weeks in advance. Like that's the not sexy part of being a content creator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the discipline that comes with it, like I still have a lot of work to do to build mine build my profile and my personal brand into a place where I see it going. But when we film with the influencers and athletes that come into First Phorm, seeing how like disciplined they are to continue to post and, be engaging with their story, and posting reels consistently, like it's a tough thing to be able to, first of all, stay on trend, follow trends that are like currently happening, and then being able to find, a way that trend relates to you and your niche, because like you might see like a trending audio, but then they do it in a way that might not be like directly relatable to like what your niche is for like paintball, but finding a way to marry the audio or the trend into what you're doing, I think is a good way to stay on trend. But it's very difficult to, well, I can't say difficult. It's more of like you have to stay disciplined to it, because the things themselves aren't necessarily like rocket science. It's just it's doing it, taking the time to do it, and most people just don't want to take the time to do it. Being active, like responding to comments, posting on your story, posting reels, like.
Yeah, that's, I've had a lot of people in paintball come up to me the past few years, especially after like winning the awards and whatnot, is people like, hey, how did you do it? Like, I want to do what you do. Like, what camera should I get? Like, what advice would you give me? And I never ever talk about gear. Like, I never talk about anything other than the most important thing is to stay consistent. Like, I don't care if you're doing video. I don't care if you're doing photos. Like, the most single important thing is to stay consistent, because once you stop, then you'll start to see your brand drop off, or like you'll talk yourself out of going to the field. I don't need to post today. I can wait till next time. No one's going to know. Mm-hmm. So consistency is so important. And I think the industry that you're in, the health and fitness industry, like that's the bread and butter is consistency, right? And so can you talk to me about that? Like how those two are married together? Because, you told me that before your paintball journey, you weren't necessarily, I think, overweight, but you said you categorized yourself as chubby, and you showed me your before and after picture, and you totally have transformed your life and your body. And I'm assuming consistency is a big part of that.
100%. And I mean, like, and there's also like a lot of parallels from that to just like everyday life and everyday living. I think like it kind of it's like this balance that you see in all facets, whether it's paintball, work, or like just your daily life. And it just has to deal with like discipline, doing the things that you need to do, And you might not want to do them, but doing them anyway, I think it's just so important that like, cause things are going to be hard. It's going to be hard to like wake up and work out, especially when you're not feeling like it. But it's just important to do it because that's what you told yourself that you were going to do, and just staying disciplined to it. But, up until I had, gotten the job at Phorm and understanding fitness and nutrition, being in college, like, and in high school, like I played soccer, I was very athletic. So I was like, I was naturally like doing 2 days, like workout practice. So naturally, like I'm just burning a lot of calories, not necessarily eating a ton, which is another thing on the nutrition side of it. But, I was burning a lot of calories. So I was a little bit like leaner in high school. Didn't necessarily have like a six pack or anything, but I was just like, I was a little bit leaner. And so once I got out of high school, went to college, I didn't necessarily have like a sport to do besides paintball. And at this time, I'm like, to give a little bit of context, my senior year, I was cut from cut from soccer. Like my whole goal, like up until that point, because I played like club leagues, state leagues for soccer, like my entire life. Like soccer was my thing. And then, come my senior year, me and a couple of other seniors got cut from the program, and the coach decided to kind of build it up over the next couple of years with like the undergrad or the freshman, the sophomore, wanted to build the program into like a winning program by, starting with the youth. Sure. So I got cut. And that was a moment where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take this energy and momentum and put it into paintball. And I think that's where I really started to play paintball more competitively, take it more seriously. And I started to like, make the jump from Division 4 to Division 2, playing with the outlaw camp, or the Trade My Gun outlaw camp. Yeah. And so like, that's where my physical activity was coming from, was paintball after high school. But then, I got into high school and I knew that I needed to weight train and lift weights. And so I started lifting weights in college pretty consistently, like a couple times during the week. But then I would notice like I'd be super consistent with lifting and I just wouldn't see any results. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe like I saw a little bit of definition here or there, but like nothing like, because you go online and you see these bodybuilders or these power lifters and they're like, super in shape, like cut, have abs, like muscle definition. You're like, damn, like how, like I'm lifting every day, like lifting hard. Like, why am I not looking like these guys, and it just kind of like gets, you see that and you start to get like defeated and like demoralized and like, well, I guess like they're just genetically like that and I'll just never be in that position. You start to kind of like, out of it. Exactly. And you're just kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'll never be there. And so that's kind of the mindset that I had. And then I got the job at Phorm. And, something I really like about Phorm versus like other supplement companies. And I'm sure other supplement companies do it as well, but our company really tries, like the whole goal is to help real people get real results. Like whatever your goal is in the fitness space, whether you're in a space where you want to gain weight, like let's say you're very, your weight is really low and you want to put on mass, whether you want to gain weight, maintain your weight and just, kind of like do that thing or lose weight. There's only three things you can do is lose, gain, or maintain. Sure. Those are the only three your body can do. And so, there's a huge emphasis on education at the company. And, whether you're a transformer coming into our app, because we have a fitness app where you have an advisor that talks to you and, you can work one-on-one with that advisor to kind of like set up your macronutrients when it comes to like nutrition, because that's where I really realized that nutrition is a huge role when it comes to like where you want to go. Yeah. And for example, I realized that, I had the fitness side of it down where I was lifting weights consistently and like weight training and resistance training, but my nutrition wasn't like where it needed to be. And it's a really weird thing to have to eat more food than you think, but also hitting a specific set of values. So let's say my goal is to lose weight. My body at the age, height, and weight that I am currently at right now. So I'm 26. I'm probably about 180. I'm like 5'10", 5'11", kind of right around that height. Now, with that information being given, I have a very specific set of values that I need to hit in order to lose weight. So I need a specific amount of protein, carbs, and fats that I need to hit every single day to be able to lose weight over time. And understanding what my values were, working with my advisor, I was able to find out what my macros needed to be, and that's macros, macronutrient. That's kind of what it stands for. I knew what I needed to hit, and then it completely opened the door for my weight loss journey. So I started to eat foods that would get me to those values, and then I started to continue my resistance training consistently, and I started to see results. 5 to 6 to 8 weeks, I started to really see the results in the growth from the seeds that I had planted when I first started. And something that was liberating as well is like, when people are like, oh, you got to lose weight. They're like, oh, well, you have to eat chicken and rice. And like, that's, you can't have like any snacks or junk food. Like I was able to lose weight by still eating Reese's peanut butter cups. Cause I love Reese's. I love ice cream. Ice cream is like, that's my guilty pleasure food. Like people like cookies, people like cake. I love ice cream. That's like, it's
what
got
flavor?
Vanilla, chocolate chip cookie dough, Reese's, like Blizzard. That's like what I really like. And it's got a chokehold on me. I love.
That's gonna be the title of this video. Ice cream to like fit, or ice cream to six pack.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the liberating thing about that is knowing that when you look at any kind of food, it has a specific, like, you start to look at the nutrition label, and it will literally tell you like how much grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, how many grams of fat are in that said item. Yeah. And you can work that into your diet as long as it, like, you're not in a surplus of carbs or a surplus of fats and a deficit of protein. Most people aren't getting enough protein. And the thing about it is, like, let's say you're just in a caloric deficit, which is you're burning more calories than you're taking in. You notice the weight coming off, but you're also losing muscle mass. That's why it's really important to continue to hit your protein goals so that you can maintain your muscle mass as you cut down on body fat, kind of a thing. Yeah. So it's just really important I think that was probably really liberating, is knowing that I can still enjoy the foods that I want to eat. I just have to be aware of how much I'm consuming and how that is affecting my overall intake for the day. Like, it's just finding a good balance of that. And then once I started to apply that knowledge and weight train, I started to see the results that I, wanted to see. A lot of people will do these fad diets, like, keto, paleo, carnivore, whatever diet, is out there. And they all work because they're putting you into a caloric deficit, which is essentially like, if you just track your nutrition, you don't have to do those. But like for keto, for example, you're cutting out a whole macronutrient, carbs, for example, you're cutting all of that out, and it's not to me. I mean, some people might find it sustainable. It's all about finding a diet that's sustainable for you. Sure. Something that you can continue to do. I like macro tracking, which is just kind of tracking, how, like, the macronutrients that are coming in. So, like, the proteins, carbs, fats of the food that I'm eating, just tracking that, that's what I find to be the most scalable, thing that I can stick to. Now, if somebody can stick to keto, paleo, or whatever, like, that's on them. Like, no more power to you. You know what I mean? I just think it's just kind of tracking what comes in and out is probably the most sustainable thing for the everyday human. And that's where I saw results.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing and like going into detail about this, because I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I've got some, follow-up questions here too. But one of the things that just stood out is one of the guys in the Discord that I have just shared a video. It's been like trending on YouTube lately, but I think these two brothers or two guys just did a 30-day challenge where every day they added a new fitness, like, fad or trend. So by the end of the 30 days, they were doing all of them just to see like what it would do to their body. And like, this is all the hot trends that everyone's doing right now. And at the end of it, you know, not to like spoil it, but they're like, you got to pick what's right for your body. You got to pick what's right for you. You know, and I think what you explained is exactly what I go through and what I have gone through in a lot of my life. And I would imagine some people too, is I'll go to the gym, you know, I'll be consistent with it. But then like I'll stop because like I'm not seeing results, or I'll be consistent with it. And then I'll go into that caloric deficit of like, all right, I've got to like lower my calories today. I've got to like take in less food, but then I'm not seeing the results. And so it sounds like what you're explaining is, if it's something that you truly want, you've got to do the work up front to learn about it. And then when you learn about it, that's where you can start to put all of the pieces together.
100%. It's doing like a little bit more upfront research as to like what is this? What are the different traits to it? And then just staying consistent to the plan, even if you're not seeing the results necessarily right up front. You know, because that, like with a lot of things, you kind of like you might not see the results of like of the seeds that you are planting right now tomorrow. You're not going to see them for a week. You might not even see them for a couple of weeks. You might, like, some of these things take a long time to grow and to get to a point of harvest. You know, like for weight loss, for example, it'll probably take like 6 to 8 weeks to actually start to see those results. And that's why it's important that, like, you know, even if you're not necessarily seeing the results of your hard work now, it doesn't mean to quit and give up on that. You know what I mean? It's important to kind of like give it enough time that like you should start to see results, and then kind of make adjustments here and there if needed.
When I think of like the typical average consumer, right? Like somebody who they want to lose weight, they want to get in shape, but then when they think of all of the things into it, they kind of talk themselves out of it, right? They think of like, man, I've got to track my food. I've got to wake up early. I think the tracking part of it is what turns a lot of people off. Of like, well, wait a minute. If I go to my local restaurant and I order, let's call it the Southwest burger, like, how am I going to put that into my app? Like, how do I know what that all is? Do you have any tips there for people that like would go through that?
Some restaurants do have like a nutrition calculator, or like sometimes they post their nutrition like online. Now these are all like kind of guesstimates, or they're kind of like all generalities. It's not going to be 100% perfect. The best way to be like absolute about that, and this is more like a bodybuilder specific thing, is by like actually weighing out your food. I'm not saying you got to do that, but you know, for example, like let's say you go to a restaurant and you get a burger like that, you can kind of like guesstimate like around what it is by typing in, like, let's say you get like a cheeseburger or something like that. You can search those on our app or like another fitness app, or you can even just search online, Google like what are the macros on a cheeseburger or something like that, and it'll give you like a general overview of what it is. Now it's probably a little off, but like at least it'll keep you in the ballpark of like, okay, well, I'm around this, you know, I kind of like can compensate a little bit, or like, you know, it's better to still do it and to track it as is, even if it's not 100% accurate, than to not track it at all.
Yeah, because it's still training your mind to like get into that consistency. Like, all right, I just consumed this or had this amount. I've got to now be conscious to it for the rest of the day there as well. Cool. What about coming onto the field? You know, I think we see it a lot on Sunday. You see it a lot later in the event where like players are dragging, you know, they're walking to the start box. You see the hands on the hips, like they're bending over. How important has fitness been for you on the paintball field, and especially something that's working for this amazing company and you're seeing other pros struggling? Like, is that an edge you try to give yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you can control. Like, it's not like a variable that you have to, that's thrown up in the air, whether like, you know, it may be good or it may not. Like, it's something that you can 100% control, is your like attitude and effort. So like, you know, if I want to, like, something I can control is like my work ethic. So if I want to be somebody that can, you know, ideally, like as a professional athlete and as a player, you want to be able to get as many reps as possible, or you want to be on that field, you know, 100% of the time. You want to be the guy. And to be the guy, like you have to be physically, you have to be in shape, ready to be able to go out when your name is called.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in the pits, like, and your coach is asking you like, hey, we just won that last point. Like we're up by 2 and we got to get up by 3. Like, and he's calling for the stuff, like calling for you. And you don't want to be the guy that's like, no, I can't, I need to sit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's very important to take like your fitness and your cardio seriously, and do the upfront work, so that like you're prepared in that scenario. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like you can go on like interval runs. There's a lot of like high intensity training that you can do, like in the gym, fitness. Just taking a little bit of time to work on your cardio and your endurance will go a long way. And I think it's something that people should work towards, if they want to be the guy on their team, or be able to step up when their name is called.
Yeah, you see it a lot in divisionals, right? Where like people aren't training literally at all. Some people, and they're showing up to these events. They're eating crappy food. Maybe they're drinking the night before, and then like when it comes time to actually, go on stage, like they're not performing. You also have people who want to take that next step and they want to use fitness to like help improve their game and maybe take their game to the next level. What's a piece of advice that you would give like a divisional player who maybe they've got some natural abilities, but they want to use fitness to like get that extra 1%? What's something you would give them for advice?
I mean, honestly, so if they already kind of have like the technical skill, I'd say the first thing that they would want to do, from like that side of things is to have somebody film you, and you kind of, or whether you have like a camera on your gun or something where you can self-critique, and even like consuming other content of practices and stuff that like high level paintball that's going on, where you can compare and contrast yourself. And be like, okay, well, these high end or high level players are doing these kind of things in this scenario, or like, this is how their shape is like in the bunker, like, or this is their form in the bunker. That's something that I did a lot coming up. I was very lucky that my dad was around at these practices to like, he just wanted to film, my practices. So I was able to go back and look at that footage and be like, wow, I was really sticking out here. Like I wouldn't have been shot if I was just kind of like playing a little bit more like this, or I could have taken advantage of this situation knowing that these guys aren't looking my way. So that's where I really noticed my skill improve quite a bit, is by like self-critiquing and self-auditing the footage that I had of myself, whether that be barrel footage or my dad filming me on the sidelines. So from like a technical skill like perspective, I would say, to consume as much as you can and cross-reference that to how you're playing on the field, and really be like intentional about it. Hey, like my elbow's sticking out, like, or, I'm kind of like playing a little bit looser than I normally would. I should be a little bit more aware of that. So really, really self-auditing on that side of things, I think is really important, and has led to me being a little bit more successful. Now, from a fitness perspective, I would say, look up some, now if you have the first Phorm app, there's a lot of different like programs that you can sign up for, like that already have like your workouts planned out. So it kind of takes out like all of the thinking and guesswork. Like currently I'm doing the Built to Run hybrid program, where I personally love bodybuilding. Like I love the movements of it more than anything else. So I really wanted a program that still had bodybuilding in it, but still like incorporated like some running and like cardio based activity. So that's the program that like I do. I think I can't remember if it's a 6 to 8 week program. It's something like that, but they have workouts that you can do Monday through Saturday, and there's like rest days and stuff. But that's what I do personally. Now, if I was a divisional player coming up, you could either download the app and do that, or you can, there's tons of free programs that you can find online, and just starting, square one, looking up YouTube, what's a good cardio program to improve endurance. You can follow different programs that are online. I think if anything, it's finding a plan and then sticking to it and being consistent with that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the theme of this podcast so far, right? Is like whatever you're doing, like be consistent at it, because it's so important. And yeah, you're spot on. Like when you're talking about, you know, your dad coming out there and filming you and like having all this footage, we are literally in the prime, like the perfect time if you want to improve. There's so much content out there to consume. You know, like all the time, I'll be at my local field. I rarely miss a Sunday. I did these past 2 weeks because of my back surgery. But I'm always like, I'll see players come off the field and like they're talking about what, like all the things that went wrong. I'm like, guys, go home. And like, there's a 2-hour like doc that just dropped about like Marcelo Margot, and like it followed him the whole entire event and like his communication, and it's killer. Like, you know, he talks about like all the communication that he goes through. And I think there was like a 5-second rule, like either he talked about or somebody talked about, where if there's 5 seconds of silence on the field, like they're putting something together. And there's just so much content that we can consume right now that can help make us better on the field. Yeah,
Totally agree.
It's a good time to, like, if you want to improve, you just got to put in that time and effort off the field too to show up on the field.
No, I totally agree. I mean, there's never been more information and like videos and like content to consume than there is now. And I mean, it'll only continue to grow over time.
Yeah, but for sure. Speaking of that, talk to me about Infamous, and like, because I think you had recently posted on your story, like you had like an Ask Me Anything, and somebody asked you about like your pro teams that you'd want to play for. And I think you said Infamous was the only team that you ever wanted to play for.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, getting into paintball, I mean, I can't remember the exact thing that sparked me to want to be Infamous specifically, but I just knew that brand, like the players looked cool to me. Like I just loved watching them. I watched the Dirter like Reckoning series, and I remember watching like Dynasty, Heat, Infamous, 187, and like some of these other like teams, and I just loved watching those documentaries that Dirter put out. And you know, I just remember watching Infamous and seeing Damian Ryan, and like some of these other players like Brad McCurley and like Kevin Rudolph and ZP, and you know, just seeing those dudes play, and like it just looked like a sick team. And I loved following them specifically for whatever reason. And you know, like whether like the gun that they were shooting looked super cool, and like their jerseys looked really cool, and they had this aggressive play style, and like it just seemed like I just continued following them as opposed to like most of these other teams. And you know, like I'm kind of like very one-track minded kind of a person, where like when I see something that I like I just pursue that. You know, I kind of like put the blinders on, and like that's kind of, you know, where I go. And I just kind of continue to follow them. I got like it's really funny to talk about now, but you know, back when I first was getting into paintball, like my parents have never been, you know, fans of guns or like, you know, anything. Like they've never they don't like hunting, like nothing like that. So naturally when I'm like, hey, I want to go try like paintball, you know, they were very hesitant. And you know, I was able to like work my way into going to a field to play with my best friend. We both had so much fun when we went to the field. And I think my dad saw that, and he saw that there was like low risk. You know, they're wearing masks. They have like these, you know, plastic football, chest protectors, and like they're just kind of running around. I mean, it's just paint. So they kind of like pulled it back a little bit. And then once I started to play more consistently, go to fields, practice, play, you know, and started to want to get a gun, you know, I got like a 98 custom. You know, I liked that. But then like, you know, you start watching, you know, these tournament players come to your field, and you're like, oh my gosh, like these guns look super sick. They're going super fast. And it's like, dang, I want that gun. Like that looks super cool. And you start doing more research, and it starts getting expensive. And then like I think I got like an Invert Mini, which was like a gun that I really wanted. And then after that, like I wanted the infamous laser engraved Empire Axe. Like I wanted that super bad. And my parents were like, well, you know, like you already have these guns. Like why do you want another one? And I was like, I just really want, it looked so cool to me, like as a kid growing up. And I'm like, this is like, if I get this gun, I'll never need any other gun.
This is it, my dream gun.
This is my dream gun. Exactly. Like when you see cars and stuff, like this is my dream car. And so I literally, I wrote, my dad still has the note, but I wrote on this note, I'm like, it's a letter. It's like, dear mom and dad, this is the only gun that I will ever want. And it's the infamous, I don't know, Empire X, whatever. I will never buy another gun in my entire life if I can just get this one or whatever. And so I have this letter, and they caved. They let me buy it. So I got that gun, and it was so cool for me, kind of like coming up.
That's so cool to like have that. You're like literally all these kids out here who are dreaming of playing pro one day, and like now you're a few years into it playing with your childhood heroes. Does that ever like go through your mind, like when you're stepping on the field with Callie, or like it comes down to you and him, and like you're like, holy shit, like I dreamed about playing with this guy, and now here you are? Do you ever have those moments?
Yeah, I mean, like it was really big when I first started, like with Greg Sewers and Thomas Taylor, and obviously Callie, like all of those guys. I was just a semi-pro player at the time, and I got onto the team, and they were like super welcoming, took me under their wing, and like actually took time to give me feedback and like improve my game and step aside and give me critique. I'm just so appreciative of that, for them taking the time to like help me out and help me grow as a player, because like I wouldn't be able to, like, I wouldn't even be close to where I am like now without like the help that they gave me early on. And I just remember like going to that first practice, like Cody Makowski was a huge role model, and he gave me the opportunity to even even put my foot in the door, I was very lucky, and not a lot of like divisional players have a local pro that play out their field. And that was kind of something that was really helpful to me, is like I would play at the Siege, in McGuanago. I'm sorry if I butchered that. McGuanago, it's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Very thankful for Doug, who's the field owner, who allowed me to, come on like weekdays and drill and practice and shoot cone. But Cody was a huge advocate for me, where I got to, spar one-on-one with him and drill with him. And, he really took me under his wing, while I was there, and kind of like really helped me improve as a player. Even when I wasn't like on his local divisional team, he helped me and went out of his way to help me as a player. And that's something I'll forever be thankful for, is like, I was on the outlaw squad, where John Kurzawa took me in and helped give me a shot to play higher divisional paintball. That was kind of my first shot at like playing at Division II, because I went from Division 4 to 2, and got to play with like competent players around me, and it was just a big step up. But so he kind of helped me in the outlaws. Everybody on the Trademark Gun Outlaws took me in and kind of like helped me as a player as well.
Wow.
But, I'm very thankful for like all the people that played a role in helping me get to where I am, because like and I'm very thankful for like the people in paintball. I see this in some other aspects, but paintball, it's very prominent, where, the higher level players will come and help support the local divisional players around them come up. Like, even if it's like after a point is finished, like somebody like Cody coming over and being like, hey, that was a really good point, but did you know that, you could have made that move sooner and wrapped on this guy to make the next move and open up the game. It's really cool to see players helping like lower divisional players and just going out of their way to help out.
Yeah. And like the power of a moment, right? Like that one conversation that Cody had with you or somebody else, like that could have been the confidence that you give somebody to like, wow, like, okay, I can do this. And like, then their career just skyrockets from that moment. It's cool to see like pros are doing that all over the world, essentially, as they're finding ways to give back to the community, and they're taking time to grow that, because at some point they were in that kid's shoes, sitting right there, not knowing what the difference was.
Wow. Absolutely. And I think it's really important that and I think a majority of pro players will do that, will go out of their way to help out the players around them in their at their fields, their locations, wherever they're playing.
Yeah.
But it's just really important, if you are a professional player, to help the local players that are around you, because like, I'm just very lucky, like where I was just a Division IV kid, playing at this field, and like, it's very easy to just kind of walk, like as a pro, come in, clock in, do your drills, play, and then head out, dip out, without like helping, the players around you. And it's like, you never know if that player could be the next, the next top dog, or like could be just another like really good player that comes up. And it's all it takes is like you to give them a chance.
I mean, and in your shoes, like let's say if you were at a field with Callie one day and like Callie saw you as a kid, who knows in 10 or 15 years if you're going to be a teammate. Like
Yeah,
that's how small our sport is. Like the kids at the field now, they could be a teammate of yours one day.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Even though they're just, shooting Tippmann 98s right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I've got a few more questions, then we'll let you go. You've mentioned your dad a lot on this podcast. And, I think the cool thing is I think he goes to almost all of your events now, right? And like he helps out in the pits. What is it like having your dad like see you coming, playing at the highest level, when a few years ago he was the one that was helping you film to help grow as like a kid?
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. And I know a lot of people don't have a situation similar to mine. And that's exactly why I try to appreciate, what he does, as much as I can, because I know that the situation that I have is very unique, and rare. And it's very cool to have, somebody who's always there to support you. Like my mom was always there to support me. My dad's always there to support me. And you just don't find that a lot nowadays. And, whether that's society, paintball, or wherever. So I'm very lucky and very blessed to have that opportunity. And, especially for him to be so involved early on, it's not something that you see very often. And, I'm grateful that he's always shown an interest to want to, follow me and my passions. Cause he would drive with me to Indiana, from Wisconsin, which was like those 6-hour drives just to go practice for the weekend. He came up north to Superior, shout out to the Soup, to go practice for this 5-man team that I'm playing on, Division IV, Division 5-man. You know what I mean? Like for him to like, and those were a lot of like early mornings and like late nights where like I would play, and then I would be like so gassed that like, because for 5-man, like you and I both know that 5-mans last the entire day.
Totally, yeah.
They're so long. They're so long. And so like after playing like for the whole day, like he stepped up and like, he regardless of whatever needed to happen, he would do it. So like he would wake up at 6 in the morning, drive us for 5-6 hours, get to Superior, play, and then drive us back that same weekend, and just very, very lucky that he wants to be so involved, and thankful that, Travis allows him to be at the practices and like wants him to be at practices. And Travis has really cultivated an awesome team culture that we have on the team, and, really incorporates him into the things that we do. And, I'm grateful for that as well. And it's so just, cool. It's so cool to have him like in the pits, wanting to come to practice, and then meshing with the guys, because, when my dad was in high school, and he played football like all throughout high school, played basketball, loved sports, loved the team camaraderie. And, he actually went to the same university I went, UW Milwaukee. He went there. Wow. That's actually where my mom and my dad met as well. Oh, cool. He went to UW Milwaukee, but he pursued a degree in architecture. And that was the best school for that degree. And he really wanted to continue playing football. Like he was a really good football player in high school, but he put that aside to pursue his career in architecture. So he went to UW Milwaukee and couldn't play football, but he played pickup basketball games and still continued to play the sport that he loved, just not at the level that he was doing in high school. And it's I think it fulfills a thing in him where he gets to still be around the team camaraderie and, be around the guys. And it's just, it's something like that you can't explain being around a group of people. I think like you see this in the military, you see this in fraternities, you see this in like other facets and group collectives where you're with a group of people all sharing one goal, and you're all kind of doing something hard together and bonding through the struggle. And it's just, it's something unique, and you don't get that unless you are a part of it, and I'm so lucky that he is a part of that, wants to be a part of that, and has always supported me through anything that I choose to do.
Yeah, gosh, what a special bond that you guys have. Like this episode will come out pretty close to Father's Day. I think maybe a week or two before it. And so like for you to share that story right around Father's Day too, it's just,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so wild. And I'm sure your dad's gonna listen to this. And it's cool. I know there's a few stories in the league where like, moms or dads are like in the pits, watching their son or daughter at the highest level. And so I can't even imagine like the feeling he gets, like seeing you come off the field or go on the field for the first time, and to be like so immersed in the team. Like Travis, like you said, does a great job having him be a part of it. It's such a special bond that you two share.
Absolutely.
So cool. Let's fast forward 20, 30, 40 years from now. It sounds like players are now playing professionally into their 50s and 60s. What does it look like for you when you finally like hang up the cleats? Like, do you think there's a world where you'll step back into the paintball media side?
I mean, honestly, I'm not sure. If anything, I could see maybe like doing some coaching would be really fun. I always have a passion for media, so like,
yeah, I see that.
It depends. Like, I guess we'll see like where like First Phorm continues to scale, because like as that scales and grows, that will pull away time. But I don't know. I enjoy paintball media, and I like the hybrid of like competing and then still like finding, time to fulfill the content creation side of like my passion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go back and forth because like part of me enjoys taking the time to like step on the field. I think if anything, I would be a little bit more selective with the stuff that I choose to shoot. If I did continue to do like photo or video after I step away from the sport, I think that's I don't know if that answers it or not, but.
Yeah, it totally does. It's one of my favorite things. Like, and he doesn't do it as much this year because he's playing a lot more. But like the last few years, like Alex Ragey, you'd see him, he would suit up, be on the field, and then you would see him walk around with his camera. Like he was, doing both, living that content creator life as well.
Yep.
Being in the paintball media and being behind the camera, has that taught you anything or like helped you look at the game in any different way when you're actually on the field playing?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes I notice, like, I mean, if anything, it's kind of like as I'm filming, I kind of more so look at it like, okay, well, this player is going to go to this position and then do this. So I start to kind of like think of it more strategically, I think, because as a content creator for our sport, you have to put yourself in a position where you're going to get like the best action, or like when they're going to make a move, do something. So you kind of have to put yourself in a position to be able to capture that. And so if anything, it's really helped me to think about like what move this player is going to be, or what move this player is going to do, kind of anticipating like, is this guy going all the way, or is he going to stop short? Like looking for the little tendencies on that. I think I've been able to pick up on it a little bit. And more so like you look at the stance a player has and kind of like how his foot position is, or like where he's looking, how his position is on the box. You can kind of start to tell like their tails, or like, their tells of like, are they going short, wide, like pitted? Like you start to kind of pick up on it a little bit. So if anything, I think you start to really notice that as a content creator behind the camera.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because like that, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like doing it for a few years now. Like there's some pros who have just, and I won't say their names, but they have dead giveaways of like when they're about to move or they're about to like make a bump, It's like that allows me to like, okay, I know where I can get into position or get my camera ready for that bump. And I think that's something unique that not a lot of people would have unless you're actually behind a camera looking for those things. And so it allows you to see the game in a completely different light.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, awesome. Man, this has been so good. I'm so glad like that you came on, because I know when I was told my guys that you were going to be on this, they were so excited to hear, because like they know how much you're into fitness. Especially, I've got a lot of Phorm fans, in my Discord, so they're going to be super excited to hear your journey. It sounds like you may have listened to a few of these before. I've always ended my episodes with asking my guest a question from last week's guest.
Sweet.
And usually when we record, you won't know who that guest was. And so it's kind of a cool way to like tie you in, and then you'll be able to ask a guest to my next guest after you. So the question I have for you actually comes from my wife, because I had her on. Yeah. She'll be the guest before you. Sweet. She started the account Why I Paintball a year or so ago, and like it kind of took off a little bit. And her vision for that was to turn that account into something video related, and that's where this podcast kind of came from her. So it's kind of cool how like her and I are connected there.
Yeah.
But her question, her question for you, without knowing you're going to be on this though, is why paintball? Like, why do you choose paintball?
Like, so why do I choose paintball over, or like, just from like why do I continue doing it, or why did I choose it in the first place? Or,
let's go down to why you continue to choose it, right? Because I think a lot of people have similarities of why they started in the first place, but like, why 4 or 5 times a year are you taking time away from your girlfriend, from family, from work to go travel around the country and play this crazy sport? Like, why do you keep coming back to it?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question, because I mean, like my position might be different than like a lot of other like players in the league, because there's a few players that are getting paid, like, and this is all they do. And like I'm in a different boat where like I get paid from this separate company. I work a 9 to 5, like technically, but and I'm doing just well doing that. And so this is kind of like it's not, I wouldn't say like my side thing, but it's like a passion that I have separate from like my main thing. Totally. So, obviously it does take a lot of time, now that the league has switched to one weekend, it takes you have to play that full week, leading up to the event. Otherwise you're just at a disadvantage from the teams that are. Yeah. So it takes a large commitment, 5 times a year. So why do I continue to do it? I think I just really like the team camaraderie, the competition, the fact that like I've always been a competitive person, whether it's, in my industry, whether it's, because I'll game occasionally like on Xbox and stuff like that. Yeah. Or even like, in fitness, because we have different kinds of like, we'll do team workouts and stuff where, like let's say it's an AMRAP, which is as many reps as possible in a given amount of time. We'll do like team workouts like once a week. Sometimes it's competitive, sometimes it's not. But I really enjoy the competitive ones because I'm going up against somebody and I get to see how I stack up against it. And I like to be the best at what, I do, whether that's, content creation or as like an athlete or as like a professional paintball player. Like my goal is to be the best. And so I just really like the competitive nature that, competition brings out. And I think like being able to work towards something is very rewarding. Like building with this collective of guys trying to achieve the same goal, and working at it from different angles, fitness, paintball, from a strategic side, from a physical side, from like a mental side. It's like, it's a really cool thing that you get to work towards with a group of people. And I think that's probably what continues to pull me in.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful answer. Like you literally in that answer, you just like summed up every part of this podcast that we've talked about, like the camaraderie part, the drive, the motivation, all the hard work, the fitness that goes into it. So without knowing it, you just like summarized everything.
Sweet. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, the pressure's off. Now you get to ask a question for next week's guest, and it can be anything that you want to ask.
Let's see. I guess what's a I guess the question that I would ask this person is like, is there a pivotal moment where is there a pivotal moment that you can identify that led you to be in the position that you are right now?
Wow, that's a beautiful answer, or a beautiful question. Wow. Yeah. Do you have one for you? Like, I want to jump back to, I want to know that.
Yeah, I go back and forth because like I think I probably have like two if I had to look back and say it. And one was like being cut from that varsity team in high school for soccer, because that's when I decided to go all in on paintball. Yeah. And then the second other moment would probably be like when I was like laying in bed staring at the ceiling, and I knew that like I wanted to do content creation. Like that's what I wanted to do. I think those would probably be the two moments that if I had to look back were like very defining.
Wow. That's such a good question. And I hope people that are listening and have listened to this so far, someone's going to be stuck in that, like, man, what do I do with my life kind of moment, right? And so I hope they take your advice and make that decision to go all in whatever their passion is, and maybe it'll lead to a professional career one day.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, there's great examples of that. Like you look at creating this personal brand of, like your podcast and just kind of like continuing to build this. Yeah. And then you see people like Travis who went all in and created Pro DNA and like some of his other brands and stuff. It's really cool to see somebody choosing to make something of themselves, or like to go all in and it's not going to be easy, but like choosing to do it anyway. And like, just, whereas people could just sit back and be like, oh, they could have did this, that, like they actually decided to take action, and that's something that I really respect about Travis. And, it's not easy building a brand, and what he's been able to, and same with Callie. Callie's been Callie and ZP have been huge influential people for building the brand into what it is. And it's just it's really cool to see that being built. And I think people should continue to support brands and people that are actively trying to innovate and do things originally and organically, and you see like what they're building, as opposed to like other brands that might see something and copy it or like rip it off. And it's just important to support the little guys and people that like are actively trying to make a difference in the sport that they love. Because I probably don't know somebody more passionate about paintball than Travis Lemansky.
Yeah. And Travis is just like any of us who have a brand, right? Like at some point, Travis had an idea for Pro DNA and probably was like, man, you know what? Like, I don't know if I should do this. Like, should I not? Like, will this stick? And he probably went through that imposter syndrome, that fear cycle. And at some point he had to put all that stuff aside and like, all right, let's go for it. Mm-hmm. And then now, years later, like it's massive, and people probably never even think back to that moment when Travis was like, you know what, I think I might try this, and that how hard it is to just take that idea and to put into motion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. What a great way to end this episode. So again, thanks for coming on. And it's been cool to learn more about you, about Infamous. I had a respect for First Phorm before this, but like I've got a higher respect level for it now. And it will definitely continue to fuel me for the rest of the NXL events this year, because, man, we've got some hot ones coming up.
I do, for real. Texas, oh my gosh, this could be tough.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, to everyone tuning in on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Shellda Podcast, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.